This is a gathering of people who have experienced loss, who have been victims of traffic violence, legislators who are helping us with the solutions, community leaders, and advocates. So if you have lost someone or you've been a victim yourself of traffic violence, please come to the front whenever you feel comfortable. Grab a flower so we know who you are and people can talk to you and hear your story, because your stories matter. I want to kick us off. I'm Eric Olsen. I'm one of the founding members of Families for Safe Streets. It's a club that no one wants to be a part of. We're a statewide alliance of people who are victims of traffic violence and their families. This is a solvable problem. In the early 1900s, the workplace was very deadly. In fact, 30,000 people used to die every year at work. That's the equivalent of 135,000 people today dying in their workplace. And it was accepted. Thousands were for decades, it got worse. And people accepted that level of risk at work much higher than they would accept at home. That all changed in 1968. There was an explosion in a West Virginia mine that hit mainstream news. The public all suddenly was outraged about a problem that had been right in front of them all along. What was hidden in the background was now a visual story no one could forget. That event triggered a series of events after it that changed everything. We created OSHA. Workplaces began to prioritize safety because employees, customers, regulators demanded it. It was no longer acceptable. It was a problem worth solving. Lives worth saving. Today, 96% of that problem is gone because of that moment, because people like you saw a problem worth solving. Tens of thousands of people around us go home from work every day safe because people cared. And because people told their stories and the world woke up. Today, people accept traffic violence as part of life. Data shows we're willing to accept that we may die when we get in our cars. The same is not true for going to work or recreating. We accept that the 300 flags that you saw out there are collateral damage for how we get around. We accept that 45,000 deaths, a Fenway Park full of people, and 1 million injuries are a normal part of American life. It's not like this elsewhere. We accept that driving 2 blocks to the store because it's not safe is normal, that that's a healthy way to live. The good news is that we can change that. That is what World Day of Remembrance is all about. With our stories, the stories you'll hear today, and common sense solutions that other places, other states, other countries already use to eliminate traffic violence, we can prevent the pain that so many on this stage feel every single day. My daughter Sydney was a beautiful, curly-haired 5-year-old girl. A truck driver killed her in a crosswalk on the way to art class in our residential neighborhood. We cannot save Sydney, but there's a little girl like her, dozens of them out there, curls bobbing in the wind as they ride their bike in their neighborhood, who you can save. Each person on this stage is part of the solution. Community leaders, legislators, voices of victims and their families, but we can't do it alone. We need every single person here. So my ask to you is take what you hear today and do something with it. Talk to your state reps and senators. Mention the bills you'll hear about. The common sense of using safety cameras, something that's been proven in 21 other states to prevent death and injuries, and common sense truck legislation to protect those outside the vehicles. With your help, we can have our West Virginia moment in traffic violence. We can save millions of future lives and open up possibilities for safer and healthier and happier and more connected communities for all of us. Thank you. I want to get started with our agenda here now, and I'm going to start with our. Thank you. To tell a little bit more about our story and how we came into this, I want to introduce my wife. She is the executive director of the Rainbow Fund and a co-founding member of Families for Safe Streets, Mary Beth Ellis.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for coming and to support this such an important movement we're all part of. My name is Mary Beth, and this is my beautiful daughter, Sydney. She was the most beautiful soul. She had a radiant smile, as you can see. She loved to play with her brother and her cousins. A mom is supposed to teach her daughter, but Sydney taught me so much. Every day, she would wake up so happy and energetic. She'd whoosh down her bunk bed slide and catapult over the gate in her room and run into our room for morning snuggles. I would trade anything in the world for one more hug from Sydney, one more chance to tuck her into bed and kiss her and her stuffed animal Bobo. But I can't get that. I was robbed of that, as so many others. There's so many families just like us. Every traffic death is a son or daughter. So many are also wives and husbands. They all are so meaningful, and everyone is so valuable. We can't save Sydney, but we can save the next victims. If you look in your program, there's two important pieces of legislation. We urge you to reach out to your legislator and to ask them to support this legislation. This is what will make some changes here in Massachusetts. We won't stop until all large commercial vehicles are properly equipped with side guards, convex and crossover mirrors, backup cameras, and even better automatic braking systems. And with automated enforcement across 22 states in the U.S., lives are already being saved. We encourage you to reach out and ask that your legislator also supports that, so there's more lives saved. Sorry, it's such an emotional day for so many of us, and we feel so strongly about every life that has been lost. If you're another family, if you've lost someone, please, we encourage you to join us with Families for Safe Streets. And I'll leave it back to Eric, but every life is so important, and no more traffic deaths. These are all preventable.
Our daughter was killed in an intersection, but most people who die in traffic die in their cars. Our streets remain far more dangerous than they should be. And so to share a story about that and her husband, I'm going to bring up Sherri Arrington, one of the founding members of Families for Safe Streets. Thanks, Sherri.
This is the page of the newspaper the day after Tom and I had a crash in Danvers, Massachusetts. Tom and I were on the first day of a vacation, had just landed in Boston, headed north for a 3-week vacation, and we got as far as Danvers. We were moving with traffic at 8 o'clock in the morning. You can imagine what that was like. And I noticed some object off to my right side, and as I tracked it, it hit the pavement, bounced, and came diagonally across the traffic towards our vehicle. It's one of those moments when you know something bad's going to happen, and there's not a darn thing you can do about it. That tool was a concrete screed that came out of the back of a construction company dump truck. That was longer than the bed, and it was sticking out, and it was totally unsecured. And because of that, Tom's dead today. That piece of metal was 15 feet long, and it maneuvered itself through the air in such a way that it came towards our vehicle like a spear. It pierced the windshield, sliced through the steering wheel, and impaled Tom in the head and neck. Before he died from his injuries, he brought our vehicle to a complete stop in the lane of traffic and put the car in park. I don't know how he did it. Tom died before I could even get his pulse taken. The person who was driving the vehicle had no idea they'd lost the tool. They got to their work site and found that they were missing the tool they needed to do their job that day. They turned around and headed back down the highway and came across the crash, and that's how they discovered what had happened. And that's the very brief, condensed version of the first page of my crash story, which will continue for a long time, according to my attorney, who I'll be meeting with again this week. Tom was a son, a husband, a father, a grandfather, and an educator. He was a vocational teacher, and anyone who knew Tom knew there were two things that were important to him. You better be safe when you walked in his classroom, or you were going to be sitting on your butt not working, including my kids when they went to see their dad. And the other thing was that you could ask Tom to do anything for you, and if he was able, it was done with no questions and no expectations. My mother died 10 months before Tom, December 1st, 2020, during COVID. Tom was teaching remotely, and so he chose to stay in Indiana with my dad. And I think this just speaks so much of the character of Tom. He was with my dad for his first Christmas without my mom, New Year's, Valentine's Day, my mom's birthday, and their 68th wedding anniversary. Tom spent 4.5 months with my dad and was able to visit his brother too. And I think that tells us who Tom was. We're all here today because we want to honor people who have been injured or died in traffic violence. And being here, we are all demonstrating that we're advocates, and we all have had a different path here. And I want to tell you that I wasn't one of those people who was angry at the moment of Tom's death, and I was determined to do something. And I wasn't a person who learned something new and decided I needed to do something with that information. I'm a person who was confronted with a person in the DA's office who, excuse me, but I'm going to say really pissed me off when they said to me, the person who did this will never be charged with a crime because although they're responsible for Tom's death, they did nothing criminal. After all, it was just an unfortunate accident. It was a preventable crash. Tie your damn load down and my husband wouldn't be dead. The other thing that caught my attention was the word just, which I really, really don't like. And I felt that that person who was supposed to be an advocate for victims trivialized the life of every one of our family members and friends when they referred to that as just an unfortunate accident. They minimize the value of human beings, 40,000 every year that die in our country. And that was a very wrong thing to do. And there's nothing like making somebody angry when you devalue another human being that will cause them to get themselves in gear and find a way to do something to make their life better. And I congratulate all of you for being here, because being here, we're helping to make all of our communities safer for everyone, no matter how we move through those communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherri. We rode here from Cambridge, and one of the reasons this event sparked up last year was a series of deaths in Cambridge. One of them was John Corcoran. I want to bring his son Jack up now, who's been a great advocate, to tell his story.
Thank you all for being here today. I hate that this day has to exist. We are all here today because we lost a loved one, because we love to walk or bike, or because we're just paying attention. I'm here today because my father, John Corcoran, cannot be. My father was an avid biker and loved his home city of Boston. Almost every day since COVID, he biked from our home in Newton along the Charles River into Cambridge and Somerville. Biking was a massive part of his life, and I can't imagine who he would be without it. Not 3 miles away from here, he was struck while biking and killed by a driver who veered onto the sidewalk from Memorial Drive. This shouldn't have happened. This shouldn't have even been able to happen. This is the fault of not only the driver, but also because of massive infrastructure oversight on the part of the Massachusetts Department of Transportation, Mass DCR, and the Cambridge City Council. A year ago, at the World Day of Remembrance, I was another face in the crowd. I hadn't found my voice. My grief was so fresh. But I'm proud to say now that I've found my place to advocate for bicycle safety and infrastructure justice. Because of the work and advocacy of so many here, I'm thrilled to say that Cambridge has elected a massively strong pro-bicycle city council. I, alongside so many others here, was inspired to speak out because of personal tragedy, and I encourage each and every one of you to do the same. Have the conversations, educate yourselves, educate others, and pay attention. We couldn't have won pro-bike seats in both the Cambridge and Boston elections without the work and support of the city's voters. What we're doing is valuable, and our voices matter. Speak up, because they're listening. Pay attention, because our voices hold them accountable.
Thank you, Jack. Great words. What you see here today is a partnership. It's a partnership between those who have lost, the community advocacy groups who support us, and the legislators. And so I want to introduce a couple of the community advocacy groups. We're going to start local and then go to the state level. So first I'm going to bring up Tiffany Cogell from the Boston Cyclists Union. That's a lot of words.
Good afternoon, y'all. Boston, I'm honored to stand with you on this World Day of Remembrance, this day where we speak names and we honor lives. We feel together the pain of every person we have lost to traffic violence, and we hold close every person, every family, every friend, every community member whose world has been forever changed. Thank you for each and every one of you who have shared your stories today. Your courage truly fuels this movement. Let me get clear. This is something that a lot of us activists have been having discussion around lately. Traffic violence is preventable. We know what saves lives. We have the data, we have the tools, and we have the people of Boston who have the will. Now we need our elected officials to match that with action. Bold, unapologetic, uncompromising action towards mobility justice in every single universe and neighborhood. Because Bostonians are depending on you, we're depending on you to build safe, protected, and people-centered streets that this city and every single one of us deserves. Not just downtown, not just in highly visible corridors, but everywhere people roll, bike, and ride. Listen, this election season, we saw something that should trouble all of us. The politicization of bike lanes. This is not only ignorant, but it is truly inhumane. Safe streets are not partisan, safe streets are not optional, and safe streets are definitely a right for every resident, regardless of what mode of transportation we choose. Also, let the record show, those who campaigned against bike lanes, those who tried to roll back the progress, those who accepted money from an anti-bike lane billionaire, well, they did not win, period. Because the people of Boston are smart, we're savvy, and we are paying attention. Know better, we know better. We know what we deserve. And if we need a real-time example of what political courage actually looks like, we don't have to go far. We can look to our cousins across the river to Cambridge, a city where the majority of elected officials said, we gonna stand on business when it comes to safety. And their residents showed up in overwhelming support. And that's what alignment looks like. Our voice in Boston is loud, but it's gotta be louder, y'all. And today, on this day of remembrance, we're gonna raise that voice to say, we want safe streets, prioritize mobility justice, and put the safety of your constituents at the very top of your 2026 to-do list. We already have a foundational blueprint. We have Safe Streets, Vision Zero, Go Boston 2030. That goal calls for increasing bike commuting from 2 to 8% by 2030. Building more protected bike lines because right now safety concerns pose a barrier to keep people from riding. Making sure that 50% of residents live within a 3-minute walk of a protected bike lane. Prioritizing main streets and neighborhood commercial districts. Connecting our existing network so it's not just a map of fragments, but a system. And embracing a holistic approach to walking, rolling, biking, transit, and climate readiness. Boston has already made real progress. Better bike corridors, neighborhood slow streets, safety surge, protected bike lanes, retrofitted streets like Tremont, Boston, Center Street, Blue Hill Ave MBTA corridor upgrades, the Southwest corridor improvements. All of these projects have saved lives, and we appreciate every bit of this work. We appreciate Mayor Wu. We appreciate the Streets Cabinet. We appreciate the staff, residents, and advocates and activists who made these projects real. However, this work has been officially paused and stalled. And why? Politics. Let me say this clearly. There is more work to do. People are still losing their lives. Families are still grieving. Vulnerable road users, people not wrapped in 2 tons of steel, are still navigating streets without the protection they deserve. We mourn today, but we've also got to mobilize tomorrow. Reach out to your elected officials. Reach out to your state officials. Make sure they hear you. Make sure they cannot ignore you. The reality of the absence of safety must change, and we know that it can. Boston can make its roadways equitable. Boston should be and can lead this nation in safety on our streets. And Boston can do what always Boston has done. We fight, we organize, and we transform. Together, we can and we will build a city where no family has to stand where you all stand today. Too many of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. That was wonderful. As Tiffany was saying, despite the high barriers that we have to get over, in many ways, when I talk to my friends at the federal level, Massachusetts has a chance to lead the way. Massachusetts has a chance to lead the way. And one of the organizations that's making that possible is MassBike. And Galen Mook, who's the leader of that, is going to say a few words about that now.
Thanks, Eric. Thank you. Tiffany put very well the passion and the action that we're asking of you today. I also want to thank Eric for helping MC, and Mary Beth and Sherri and Alexa and Emily and everybody who we work with at MassBike with the Families for Safe Streets. This is a new organization that we are forming to really provide a resource for people who are impacted, affected. This is an offshoot of the Vision Zero Coalition, which is a collaboration with Boston Cyclists Union, the Wolf Streets Alliance, WalkMassachusetts, and so many other organizations that work tirelessly every day. So just want to send my sincere thank you for your passion and for turning your tragedy into activism. We should not be here. Jack put it very well. He hates this. I hate this. You all hate this. We should not be here. We are here, though, to collectively say that we do not accept this. And this is incredibly important work, because this is literally the life and death nature of what we do in our advocacy. At the State House here, there are 200 people who are impacted by this every single day in their district as well. And I'm bolstered by the stories that we hear of the impacts of how this is really felt by all the legislators who work behind us here. We have 2 bills that are in process right now that we are hopeful to get through this year. We want to expand our truck safety side guard, convex mirror, backup camera, automatic braking system. This is sensible, in practice, affordable, and desired across the Commonwealth, and we can lead the nation in requiring this on trucks that we have our purview over. This will save lives. We know this will save lives. We passed similar legislation in 2022, which would require that trucks that are owned and leased by the Commonwealth have these sensible modifications. But yet we are seeing that the delay and the desire from the administration to put this into play has not impacted and effectuated the trucks that we are navigating with as we share our roads. We pass laws and then the impact stalls. The pressure needs to be felt, and the pressure needs to come from you and from us and from the families. This is why we are here today, to redouble our efforts to work together. The other bill that you'll hear a little bit more on shortly is it's the ability to enforce traffic laws that we hold ourselves to without needing to expend the resources, the danger, the time, and the money of police officers out on the streets. We value incredibly the work that our officers do every single day. However, we have seen such a, I don't want to say a willingness to, but an acceptance of traffic violence on our street. And the goal of the automated enforcement traffic safety cameras is to have the ability across the Commonwealth to put basic regulations into play. This is in use in 21 other states. We are behind the curve here, and this would be the tool that would allow this to happen in all 351 municipalities. And this is the only way that we can make this equitable and across the Commonwealth without requiring a police officer risk. Now, if these bills go forward, we still will have work to do for implementation. We still will have work to do to get your elected officials on a local level, your city councilors, your town administrators, your DPWs, to get that work through and through. We will hear from local officials as well as state officials today. And the idea that we are needing your voice to come together to keep this persistent pressure on. Laura Everett, the wonderful overseer reverend who officiates Ghost Bike memorials, has taught us that we all need each other. This is the moment when we can come together and show that we are here in heart and in spirit and in soul, and we do all need each other. And we need each other to keep pushing. We need you to contact, to show up, to share, and to be a support for all of this important work. This is sensible. This is long overdue. And as we delay, we are only bringing more tragedy and more pain into the world. So I ask you to stand with us today, tomorrow, the next day, as you have the opportunities to come with us to sincerely demand that we do not accept traffic violence and any fatalities on our roadways. We have the ability to change the systems with which we operate, and this is the time to make this clear. With that, I'll pass back to Eric. Thank you.
Thank you, Galen, and all the work that you're doing. Yeah, we are fortunate, as Galen said, to have some legislators that are behind us and driving real, meaningful action. We saw Representative Marjorie Decker spoke earlier today, and she called this a public health crisis. She spoke at the beginning, as well as Rep. Owens, so I want to thank them. Burham Aziz, who is here, John Moran, we thank you all very much. But I want you to hear from a couple folks who are out in front leading this legislation. I'm going to start with Senator William Brownsberger from the State Senate.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I am a seasoned 12-month day and night commuting cyclist, and I also run on the roads. So for all of my 19 years in the legislature, bike and pedestrian safety have been very high on my priority list. Through the years, I've partnered with many people here today and their organizations to pass rules of the road to protect cyclists, prohibiting dooring, prohibiting the right hook, or turning motorists cut off cyclists, implementing the 4-foot rule for all vulnerable road users, lowering urban speed limits to 25 miles an hour, and prohibiting driving with a cell phone in your hand. Now, all of that is real, but it only means so much if there's no enforcement. And there has been a huge decline in road enforcement over the past 5 or 10 years. Police across the country just do not want to do motor vehicle stops anymore. They do not want to take the many risks involved in encounters with motorists. And the results are clear. Very few people drive the speed limit, and all too many don't even stop at red lights. So improving enforcement is a top priority. And our main strategy is to facilitate the issuance of a violation notice to a motorist without having to make the motorist pull over and stop. So one approach to that is automated camera enforcement. The other alternative is simply to allow officers to write tickets based on the license plate alone. Either way, we need to make a fundamental law change. Today, moving violations apply to the driver and the driver's license. So it's necessary to stop the driver and identify them in order to issue the ticket. Instead, we need to allow moving violations to apply to a vehicle and the vehicle's registration, the way parking violations do. So we made some progress last session, allowing automated enforcement of bus lane violations and school bus violations. It's progress, it's progress. And with all of us together, everybody here and the advocacy organizations you've already heard from, we're going to keep pressing to overcome the objections to expanded enforcement. Now, what are those objections? Some legislators are afraid motorists will be overtaxed by really aggressive ticketing. Others see the potential for an invasion of privacy. It's a difficult conversation, but I think more and more people are troubled by the rampant violations that we see on the roads, and I'm hopeful that we'll make progress on Senate 2344 or Senate 2346. So that's one main thrust. We're really focused on it, and we're really grateful for all the work that folks in this group, in this whole community, are doing to support those efforts. Now, there's another important thrust of our current efforts, and that's to improve safety equipment on trucks. Passing rules to require additional mirrors to improve sight lines in front and behind, and side guards to keep people from under the wheels. So following our 2022 legislation on this, MassDOT has been diligently implementing these rules applicable to their own vehicles and to their contractors' vehicles. We're now pressing legislation to expand the scope of those rules to municipalities and utilities. And by the way, we already passed similar rules applicable to the duck boats you see often rolling around in Boston. Very tragically, there's a picture over there of a young woman named Allison Warmoth, whose parents came in to me just like these parents here came in to talk about what happened to their daughter. And that did lead to results. So families have a powerful voice in this effort. So my name is Will Brownsberger. I'm a state senator. I'm the president pro tem of the Senate. And I want to recognize other legislators joining in these efforts because nobody does anything alone or remotely alone in the legislature. It's always team ball. And so the other legislators that have been co-sponsoring this legislation include Brendan Crichton, Sal DiDomenico, Pat Jalen, Barry Feingold, Representative Steve Owens, Tommy Vitolo, Mike Conley, John Moran's been active, Marjorie Decker. And by the way, does anybody recognize Enrique Pepen? He's here as well. There, Enrique, City Councilor from Boston. We appreciate your work. So I'm super grateful to Alexa Gomberg and all of the other safety advocates who put this remembrance together. And I have to highlight the work of MassBike and the Boston Cyclists Unions, constant partners with me on these issues, constant partners with all of the legislators on these issues. So thank you to everybody here today for standing up for safety, for coming together to remember our friends and dear relatives and grieve our losses. And I do encourage you to work with your chosen safety organization, whichever group it is, to advocate for these legislative changes. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Thanks, Will. I think one of the things I learned early on in this process is that this is complex work and it requires support at every level. The federal level, we're thankful for Seth Moulton, who's been a great partner on that level, who couldn't be here today, to folks like Will and the folks he mentioned at the state, but it's also the local level. And I want to bring a couple of those folks up now, starting with Brad Rawson, who's Somerville's Director of Transportation and Infrastructure.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Brad Rawson. I'm a Somerville resident, and I serve our city as Director of Mobility. And like many of you, I've lost loved ones to traffic violence. In 2017, our community in Somerville made a Vision Zero commitment. And I remember our sense of pride in that milestone, our sense of optimism. Now that I'm a little older and wiser, with the benefit of hindsight, I recognize that we were a little bit innocent. We were a little bit untested. We were a little bit naive. In 2019, we got the kind of awful reality check that you dread as a public official. 3 fatal hit-and-run pedestrian crashes on our local streets in quick succession. Our organization was unprepared to respond to these tragedies. We had no protocol for rapid response and crash site assessment. We had no standard operating procedure for crisis communications. We had no transparent project selection criteria to guide our work going forward. We had no multi-year funding or project pipeline to convince our residents and our grieving neighbors that we got this. We had no support structure for our staff, for our elected officials, for our survivors, and for our public at large. After a speeding driver killed my neighbor, a resident named Allison Donovan, in 2019, I remember sobbing helplessly in front of a crowded community room full of 100 people, my friends, my neighbors, my elected officials, my supervisors, my direct reports. I had no answers. In 2020, after a Somerville resident named Leah Zalman was killed in a turning crash on our local streets, I checked myself into the emergency room thinking that I was having a stress-related heart attack at age 40. The guilt and the shame of failing in the public trust was that profound. As I tried to make sense of these tragedies, I was lucky to lean on partners in the advocacy community and peers like me across the country who are fighting the same hard fight. One of these partners said something to help me start to turn a corner. They said, "Brad, we don't want our leaders to be robots. It's okay to feel the way you feel. It's okay to make yourself vulnerable in public and say that we can do better. You don't have to surrender to the status quo. You don't have to default into that institutional defensive crouch that we all know too well." And I think this is important, folks, because what is the Vision Zero movement if it is not a challenge to the status quo? Our first tenet is that fatal and severe crashes are preventable. They are not inevitable. We reject the status quo. World Day of Remembrance is a conscious alternative to suffering in silent isolation. By being here, we show that we reject the status quo. In Somerville, I'm now proud to look you in the eye and say that we have built a community-based traffic calming program that delivers more than 100 critical safety interventions every year. We don't apologize for it. We do it with transparency and with empathy. Because we in Somerville reject the status quo. And all across Massachusetts, we support legislation to permit the responsible use of camera enforcement because we reject the status quo. So I will say again that I and we are accountable for the lives lost and the lives changed by traffic violence. I extend my respect and my condolences to the loved ones of Allison Donovan, Kevin DeMont, Cheryl Richards, Leah Zalman, Marshall Mack, and Stephen Conley, 6 of my residents who have died on my watch. Never again. I will honor your loss by making Somerville streets safer, by building coalitions locally, regionally, and nationally, and I will honor your loss by supporting public officials like me on the front lines to manage burnout, to implement best practices, and to sustain this work for the long haul. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd love to bring him up to say a few words.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Enrique Pepen. I'm one of the Boston City Councilors that represents District 5. So that's Rosendale, Hyde Park, and Mattapan. And for me, this day is very personal because unfortunately in my district we have lost far too many lives already. And one day that sticks out to me is April 28th, 2025, which is when we lost a 5-year-old in Hyde Park. And I always bring this date up because although he wasn't a family member of mine, but as an elected official, you always feel this sense of responsibility on your shoulders when a resident loses a life due to either traffic fatality. So I carry this with me every single day when I think about what do we need to change across our city, across our Commonwealth when it comes to transportation infrastructure. And it takes courage. Because what I've learned is that one thing Massachusetts and Boston is known for is to be number one in terrible driving. Terrible, terrible driving. And that's one thing that I'm not proud of, and I want us to get us off the top of the list. So, last month in October was Pedestrian Safety Month. And what I did is at the end of that month, I invited a lot of transportation infrastructure organizers, also Boston Cyclists Union, and a lot of other organizations to the Boston City Council, so that my colleagues can see that there's a lot of good work happening out there with a lot of support. But it's going to take all of us, the 13 of us in the City Council, to have that courage, to be able to move it forward. When I got into office about 2 years ago, the number one issue that I would always hear about is transportation safety concerns. People are scared to cross our streets safely. They're worried about their kids getting on the school bus safely. They're worried about people driving at way above the speed limit on our roads. Which is why one of the main policies that I pushed forward for from the very beginning was a uniform safe school zone policy across the city of Boston. To make sure that children, no matter what neighborhood they live in, can go to school safely. That same day, I also introduced another piece of policy, which is the implementation of cameras on the stop signs of a school bus. And we weren't able to do that without our colleagues at the State House. So to Senator Brownsberger, to my Senator Mike Rush, who helped push it forward, thank you, because we know that the governor signed that into law just this past December last year. But the work doesn't stop here. Just a week ago, I was with my former colleagues at T4MA, the Boston Cyclists Union, and WalkMassachusetts, and other organizers walking up and down High Park Avenue, which is a very dangerous corridor in my district, where the speed limit is 25 miles per hour, but we have cars zooming down 70 miles per hour. People feel unsafe. We've already lost a life last year on the intersection of Ukraine Way and High Park Avenue. And I want us to not allow these opportunities to just go in vain, but for us to take action. For us to actually invest in infrastructure that is going to make our roads safer, not just for cyclists, but for pedestrians, for those who are disabled, and for those who are even in their vehicles. That's what we need to do moving forward. But I just want to also take this opportunity to thank every single one of you. Because as I said already, this is going to take a lot of courage. This is going to take a lot of organizing to make sure that not only the city of Boston, but the state of Massachusetts invests in safer streets for all. Thank you so much for everyone for being here, and thank you for your support.
Thank you. We got just one more speaker. Before we do, there's so many of you out here who didn't get a chance to speak, and I want to say that we deeply feel for you. And I particularly want to thank the friends over here of Minty. They are responsible for the event that happened last year. They triggered this. I met Alexa at a Mass DOT meeting, and she has been on a mission to make this more of an issue. And so I know Minty would be so proud, and I'm so sad that you can't go to the concert you're supposed to go to with her, have that coffee that you were meant to have. I wish she could be here. To close us out, we're going to bring up Rev Laura Everett, who is going to give us a few words.
Dear friends, my name is Reverend Laura Everett. My day job is I lead the Massachusetts Council of Churches. On October 8th in 2017, 8 years ago, I took a photo to report to Boston 311 of a person who was illegally parked in a bike lane on Columbus Ave. He opened his car door into me, sending me and my bicycle headfirst into the cobblestone streets. And on September 2024, I presided at the Ghost Bike ceremony of John Corcoran on Memorial Drive in Cambridge. One of dozens of ghost bikes. Dozens, all of those photos of the ghost bikes that we have presided at over a decade now. And earlier this year, I sat beside the weeping grandmother of Len's Arthur Joseph. Friends, I am here because I wonder what is going to happen as my wife bikes home from school, and I don't want to do any more ghost bike ceremonies. I'm tired of wondering who we will bury next. I'm tired, and I think you are tired too. I'm here because we believe in a day when there will be zero. Somebody say zero. Somebody say zero. Somebody say zero. Zero traffic fatalities. Can you say zero? Yeah. I believe there's going to be a day when there are zero traffic fatalities for you. Beloved, this is the world that we are building. And so what we are going to do next is do this. I'm going to invite you to come forward and name in just 3 sentences someone you love who has been impacted by traffic violence. We're going to do it like this, beloved. You are going to speak long enough so that we can honor them, and short enough so that other people can participate. Amen? Amen. Long enough so we can honor them, and short enough so that other people can participate. Amen? Amen. All right. And when we have finished that, you will say their name, and then we will say, we need each other. We need each other. Try that with me. We need each other. We need each other. Will someone start us by coming forward and telling us about someone who has been impacted by traffic violence?
My son, Austin Michael Willett, was killed by a distracted driver in 2023. lost his life. Someone was on their cell phone for almost 10 minutes. They killed him on my road. He was the youngest of 5.
For Austin Michael Willett, we need each other.
For my son and dear brother, William Roland Hanley O'Neill, he was 26 years old. He grew up in Massachusetts, but he died in Brooklyn, New York, where he lived, when he was hit by a car while riding his bicycle home from a friend's house. Completely unnecessary. He was larger than life. People loved him. He loved them back. He gave the very, very best hugs. He was never happier than when he was working in the soil and with friends and family.
For William Hanley O'Neill, for William Hanley O'Neill, we need each other.
Our father, Steve Conley.
For Steve Connolly, we need each other.
For our friend, mentee, Noel, who died when she was hit by a truck biking to her lab at MIT in Cambridge at age 24. We were going to go to a concert together the next day, but instead I went alone.
For Mindy, we need each other.
For my sister and her daughter, Emma Diane Bloomstein, who was incredibly funny and incredibly non-judgmental and was killed in Brooklyn biking.
For Emma Diane Bloomstein, we need each other.
For Taylor Wilkinson, who was tragically killed, one of my constituents was tragically killed on Washington Street in Roxbury this past January. Just tragic. She was a sophomore at Fisher College, just had such a promising future, and it's just a tragic. It's one of, unfortunately, a few deaths that happened in my district, in Suffolk District 9. Taylor Wilkinson.
For Taylor Wilkinson, we need each other.
This is for my brother, Al Lester. He was killed on his bike by a drunk driver in 1992 in Fulton County, New York. He was having it was in a 24-hour ultramarathon cycling race. He was having a race of his life, but it was tragically his last race. And also, this is for Andy Spiller, who was also tragically killed in that same race in a different drunk driver crash in Fulton County, New York.
So for Andy Spiller and
Al Lester.
we need each other.
So this is for my husband, John Corcoran, and who's my husband, obviously, and the father of my son, Jack, and my daughter, Christy. He was, as Jack said, out enjoying his bike ride, where a car drove onto the sidewalk and killed him. And this week, the DA's office is going to be offering a plea deal to that driver We don't know what the terms will be, but we would like to ask for everybody's prayers for justice for our family.
For John Corcoran, we need each other.
For the first person that I came to this event for, and we were the person that was officiating, Antoine, the 18-year-old kid that was killed on East Cottage, I don't remember his last name. For Jenny Chalmers, the former principal of the Matahunt, and also for Paula Sharaga, who was the amazing children's librarian at the Brookline, one of the Brookline libraries. I had the opportunity to do pedestrian safety with little kids at that library, and I had no idea that she had worked at that library. And they had decided that every year they were going to have some safety event at the library in her memory. So we have 2 ghost bikes in my neighborhood of Mattapan. I thought that would never happen. The other one is for Mr. Burke. And then, of course, as I mentioned just a moment ago, Jenny Chalmers, right? So it happens everywhere, folks. Please be careful, all right? Thank you.
We need each other.
I think it needs to be named that though we have so many here locally affected by traffic violence is a global problem. And I'd like to remember my wife's aunt, Lucy Aldana Guzman, who was killed in Colombia by a driver who fell asleep, leaving behind her only child, a 5-year-old, to grow up without a mom.
For Lucy Aldana Guzman, we need each other.
For Carl Henry Nacht, my college roommate and best friend, was hit by a tow truck while cycling in New York City 19 years ago. He was a physician, inspired his wife to start the New York branch of Family for Safe Streets, Mary Beth Kelly, and I miss him still.
For Carl Henry Knotts, we need each other.
I want to say I'm here for my dad, Howard Stein. My mom is here too. She lost her life partner, and he was killed in 2011, and we're not going to stop fighting for him and for everybody else on our street. So thank you.
For Howard Stein, we need each other.
Thank you. Ride for Your Life was not started here in Boston. It was started in DC after the death of Sarah Debink Langenkamp. Her husband started the ride series. We borrowed the name, so we just wanted to say her name as well and bring her here with us.
For
Sarah Debink Langenkamp.
we need each other. We pray for those who respond in the aftermath of a crash, bystanders and neighbors, first responders and police, reporters and medics, all those whose eyes have seen too much, whose ears still ring with the sound of squealing tires and clanging metal, doctors and nurses. We give thanks for them. When community is broken and trauma lingers, we are aware we need each other. We remember hundreds of people killed while driving, too many to name, too many to be named, unnecessary deaths, and enormous grief. We remember their lives. We remember all those who have no one to remember them, the nameless and the unknown, the never identified. We remember them still. We remember the Good Samaritans. We remember on each and every road, reminding us that we need each other. We recall those who have perpetrated violence behind the wheel. We consider the weight they carry all the days of their lives. Help us to know how to knit these fellow travelers back into community. When we are tempted to isolate, remind us that we need each other. We pray for our cities and towns, for Boston and Cambridge, for Brookline and Somerville and Chelsea and Malden, for Worcester and Springfield, for Lowell and Fall River, from Pittsfield to Provincetown, for every bridge and every person that moves across and in between. We long for a day when death will be no more, mourning and crying and pain will be no more. We long for a day when every child will be able to cross the street and every elder will be able to move in between. Move our elected officials to swift action, and lest we think we can repair the breach alone, ratify in us that we need each other. Dear friends, as you go from this place, but never from the common bonds that we have built, let me give you this blessing as we leave. Hear this word of hope. Without a vision, the people perish, but we have a vision. We have a vision of vision zero, a vision of zero deaths, a vision where children can ride their bikes to their cities and their schools, and grandmothers push their carts across crosswalks with enough time to shuffle. We have a vision of curb cuts that wheelchairs crossed over, and a vision of robust public transit. We have a vision of third shift workers making it home to sleeping children and drivers who never have to bear the weight of unnecessary violence. We have a vision of a peaceable kingdom where drivers and cyclists and pedestrians coexist. We have a vision of our media outlets calling a crash, and we have a vision of no crashes at all. We have a vision of our elected officials designing our streets and fully funding, somebody say fully funding, our infrastructure to enact this Vision Zero. We have a vision of legislation passing when? This year. This year. This year. And we have a vision of a day when we will gather not to mourn, but to celebrate our very first year of no road fatalities. Next year in Boston, next year in Brookline, next year in Cambridge and Somerville, next year in Worcester and Woburn and Westfield and Wakefield, next year in Massachusetts. Go with this vision before your eyes, with the names of those we remembered in your ears, and the power of advocacy in your hands, and the discipline of safety before speed at your feet. We bless you to walk and bike and drive towards this vision. Go in peace. Amen.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out. We do need each other. And if you're someone who lost someone, we are having a small gathering after for the folks that have been directly impacted at 66 Beacon Street. Please join us. For everyone else who came, thank you so much for caring. There are 130,000 people this year that will go home safe because we chose to care about workplace safety. We have that same possibility here because of you. But we need each other. Thank you very much.